of indemnity as a most important associate product for a letter of credit situation. What is this letter of indemnity? It is mostly used in commodity trades where cargo is seen or maybe or usually sold very many number of times during its voyage and is of very high value. When the cargo is of very high value, when the cargo is being sold very many number of times during its voyage, from the point of shipment by the actual manufacturer or the shipper till the point of discharge for the actual user, the cargo is sold very many times by intermediaries during the voyage when it is at high seas. This is mostly seen in high value commodity trades when there is a full shipload of wheat or a full shipload of oil, tanker full of oil and things like that. The intermediary buyers and sellers are often brokers. The buyers and sellers are often brokers. Chatapati BLs are mostly used upon shipment. The intervening parties take a long time to release, endorse and deliver the Chatapati BL to the next buyer. The intervening parties who are buying and selling these goods will take a lot of time to release the transport document from their bankers, have it suitably endorsed in favor of their party to whom they are selling it, and deliver it to their bankers. Because they take a lot of time, these indemnities are required, and the seller has little option but to use a letter of indemnity to fulfill its transaction. Why? Because the seller has to submit a BL as a document required to give title to the buyer. Seller is not having a BL, so seller will issue a letter of indemnity in lieu of the BL to complete his transaction. The book says that transactions of $100 million and 25 times the purchase and sale within the voyage has been seen, and 25 LOIs were there in such transactions. Now the oil prices have come down today, so whatever was being purchased, a shipload of oil for 100 million in those days could be purchased for 30 or 40 million today because of the fallen oil prices. The transaction structure. Originally, let us consider there is a party issuing a credit. Party A is the buyer and party B is the beneficiary. So the beneficiary of the credit, because he doesn't have a BL to submit, he will submit a letter of indemnity and present documents to party A's bank, and party A will ask the issuing bank to pay up against this letter of indemnity. So the beneficiary 1 will get his money and he will have an outstanding letter of indemnity. Now the party A who has got a BL has got title to the goods in the form of LOI in lieu of BL, and he will sell it to some other party called suppose S1 or buyer, another buyer. When he sells it to another buyer, he has to present documents under a letter of credit issued by that buyer. He doesn't have a BL, he has got it only an LOI. So he will ask his bank to support an issuance of LOI. He will present an LOI, and the ultimate buyer will pay up that particular LC, and the applicant A, the original applicant, had got his money by presenting an LOI. Now what had happened is he has got his money, he had paid, he had received an LOI, he has issued an LOI. So he has two LOIs on his hand. One, the one he received, under which he can claim, and another LOI he has sent, under which he can receive a claim. Now after quite some time, after a few days or weeks, the B1, the beneficiary of the first LC, receives the BL from his other party. So he will submit this BL and ask the applicant and his issuing bank to release the LOI submitted under the LC. So they will release the LOI and they will take the LC. The beneficiary B will bring back the LOI and ask his bank to cancel the LOI. So he had an outstanding LOI, he has got it cancelled. He made a presentation of LOI, he got his payment. He submitted the BL and he got his LOI cancelled. Now the applicant of the original LC A1 is having an outstanding LOI and having an original BL which has been presented by B1. He will submit this BL to the issuing bank of the ultimate buyer and say, I give an LOI in favor of the ultimate buyer under the LC and you paid me. Now I am submitting the BL, please return the LOI. They will take the BL and they will return the LOI, and against the LOI will get cancelled at his bank and he is acquired. This BL is with the ultimate buyer now. The ultimate buyer will take this BL and go to the shipping company and say, you release the goods against an LOI. Now here is a BL. Please release me from the indemnity or the guarantee that I gave for releasing the goods. The carrier will say, okay, you have submitted the BL and it is now squared. So all the parties have squared, all the parties have released their money, and all the indemnities and undertakings or guarantees are now squared off and closed. This is how the structure works. This is little complex, but if there are 25 transactions as seen in the letter of credit book, then it will become very tedious and cumbersome. LOI is a simple one-page document evidencing the issuer's ownership of the goods, underlying goods, and indemnify the party to whom it is addressed for the absence of a BL. The LOI will say, without BL, you have to deliver the goods to the whoever it is, and I am the owner of the goods, and I will indemnify you, and I undertake to pay you the compensation for holding you harmless. And this is a one-page document. Most of the time, it is issued by the applicant. Sometimes it will be issued by the bank. It will undertake to surrender the BL as soon as possible. Agrees to hold the addressee harmless against consequences arising out of releasing the goods without citing the BL. It is issued by the beneficiary of the documented credit most of the time, and sometimes countersigned by the issuing bank. The beneficiary's banker may obtain a counter indemnity from the beneficiary. Just like shipping guarantee and airway bill, here also the beneficiary banker will obtain a counter indemnity for countersigning the the LOI to protect the bank as comprehensively as possible, and will seek additional tangible security. The cancellation of LOI is possible only against surrender of the original BL. The cancellation of LOI is possible only against surrender of the original BL. The parties in the chain may become bankrupt, cease to trade, and so it will become more difficult to get it done, and so it is more risky than a shipping guarantee or an airway release. Now we will have a look at participation and syndication. Participation and syndication. What is syndication? When a set of banks come together to take up a large risk, ab initio, from the beginning of the existence of risk, it is called a syndication. What is participation? One bank takes up a risk, and once a transaction is through, considers that risk is too much to be held in their balance sheet, and asks so many other financial institutions to participate in the risk in return for a fee. So I issue a LC for 100 billion, say. I earn a 1 million income on that, say. And then as a bank, what I do? I feel there is too much risk, and I ask 5 other banks to share 20% of this risk and give it to them. So I will tell them, I earned certain income, I will share that income to you. And in having earned 1 million income, I will tell them, I will share 80,000 to 5 of you, and you will have to take 20% share in this 100 billion LC. So each of them will be willing to pay 20 billion or 20% of the LC value risk if something goes wrong, and they will say pay us fees, and I will pay them 16,000. Instead of 1 million, I will pay 1,60,000 each, and so they will get 1,60,000 into. So out of the 1 million I earned, 80% I will share with them, and 20% I will keep for having done the transaction ab initio. They are having some risk in their books, small risk, 20% only of this large transaction. They are getting an income for having done no activity technically other than taking this risk. The operations or the overheads or the cumbersome activities of getting the deal done was not done by them, but they still earn an income of instead of 100% coming to me, they are getting 0.16 each, so that 80% goes to them and 20% I keep for having done as a lead job all the work. So this is participation. So when somebody participates in the risk after the transaction is concluded by the lead bank or the main bank, it is participation. Or when a lead bank or the main bank does the transaction after taking into account all the banks into confidence and then disclosing with them and knowing each other, it is called syndication. In an infrequent way, there could be syndications where the ultimate party doesn't know the syndication, because a syndication agreement will say you act as a face of the syndicated banks, you be the lead bank, and you be the one who interact with the counterparty in all transactions. We will be behind the screen. That is also possible to make it things easy, because in syndication, if all the banks say we will issue our portion of the LC, we will check our portion of the document, we will refuse or not, and we will pay up and things like that, it will become little cumbersome for the ultimate beneficiary to have, instead of 100 billion LC, have 5 LCs of 20 billion, have 5 presentations, have 5 examinations, have 5 rejections, have 5 payments, and things like that. So this is what is participation syndication in a nutshell. The value of many transactions are becoming so large that the banks are not willing to undertake them on their own or have them booked as the risk in their own balance sheet. They prefer to share the risk and also the rewards by paying or sharing a portion of the fee and the participation in the loan or facility, or could be even the documentary risk. Participation in the loan or facility is a non-payment risk, and participation in the documentary risk is maybe country risk, bank risk, and documentary risk. This transaction could be on a syndicated basis, establishment of a DC, or examination of the documents, or handling of the discrepancies. These things will have to be looked into, because when you act as a syndicated basis, to what extent establishment of a DC will be by the lead bank or by other banks, who will examine the documents, and to what extent we will have to inform them, how the payment will be effected. They will pay 20/20 and then we will pay 100, or whether we will pay the 100 and thereafter claim from them, and how discrepancies have to be handled. These things will have to be discussed among the syndicating banks. This could be for issuance of LC as well as for confirmation of large LCs, and such confirmation could be silent confirmation or open confirmation. This could be a one-off transaction or a regular transaction. If it's a one-off transaction, okay, you can scramble these banks. If it is a large, if it is not one time, and if it is a regular setup, then it is better to have a more detailed procedure to be laid down and process to be followed. The lead bank adds its confirmation and examines the document, honors or negotiates on behalf of the syndicate, and third parties are unaware of the participation of other banks if it is one-off, because it could be most of the time a silent transaction. If it is not one-off and regular, then the facility is shared or distributed among the banks in the syndicate, and each bank in turn confirms its own portion, say 20% of value and of the LC value, and each bank examines the documents and then honors or negotiates up to the amount confirmed. For 20% they will honor or negotiate or refuse the documents if there are 5 banks involved. This is done at the request of applicant. Many times the syndication is done or at the risk of the applicant, while participation may not be at the request of the applicant. The group of banks may arrange a facility on a syndicated basis. So the risk of the applicant's inability to repay is shared in the agreed percentage terms. The risk of inability to pay is shared in the agreed percentage terms, and the fees any is also shared, and the issuance of the DC may be permitted under such facility. So this indication is most of the time is at the request of the applicant. The bank with the largest portion of the risk will be appointed as the lead bank. The bank with the largest portion of the risk will be appointed as a lead bank, and that bank will take up the drawing of the syndicated agreement or drawing of the LC clauses and things like that. The value of the DC or the DC facility will be mentioned in syndicate agreement. The type and nature of goods permitted, the validity of the LC or the shipment, validity of the shipment expiry, or up to what date the shipment should be made and up to what date presentation will be accepted. The tenor of the bills drawn is a 180-day bill accepted or a 360-day bill accepted, what it is, what are the documented requirements, and what are the other terms and conditions to be complied under the credit to make it workable under the syndicated agreement. What is acceptable to the banks participating in the syndication, and what permissible amendments are pre-agreed before the LC is actually issued. Now, whether the text of the DC has to be approved by each of the banks. Whether text of the DC has to be approved by each of the banks. Whether the DC to be issued by each bank proportionately or by the lead bank. How the DC will be issued, and whether text has to be approved by each of the bank. Whether the lead bank's examination of the document acceptable. Whether the lead bank's decision with regards to confirming documents acceptable. The lead bank will decide it is complying. Lead bank will decide it is not complying and discrepant, whether it will be acceptable. Will the manifest error or negligence lead to exclusion of liability of other banks? Suppose the lead bank makes a mistake. Will the other bank say, okay, you made a mistake and thereafter it is your responsibility 100%. We will not share the responsibility or liability under the syndicate agreement. Will it be like that? Do the other banks be advised of the discrepancies? If there is a discrepancy, is it compulsory to advise each and every syndicate member? Should they be consulted before approaching applicant? If the applicant accepts waiver, should it be consulted before accepting applicant's waiver? These processes will have to be laid down in the syndicate agreement. In case of bankruptcy or liquidation of the applicant, what will happen? Whether to refuse the document without reference to applicant, or whether to refuse the document without reference to syndicated members, how it should be done? And if the applicant is willing to take up the documents, still, do these banks refuse to reinstate their liability? Because the moment it is discrepant, they are not liable. You may approach the applicant and applicant may be willing to pay, but the banks will say, no, it will be no more my liability because I found it discrepant and I am not agreeing to take up your waiver of discrepancies. And how the commissions has to be shared and the cost incurred with respect to syndicated agreement has to be shared. What documents are required to make claims under syndication? That is, if the lead bank has to claim under the syndicate agreement with the other syndicate members, how they are to claim. What's the need form and form of the security? What's the form of security required? What's the need for the security for issuing such DCs or giving such facilities? And how the sale proceeds of the underlying goods have to be shared in case the banks take up the goods and sell it because applicant is not willing to pay. So sharing of the sale proceeds of underlying good, sharing of the security realized, how it will be done and what is to be done for the benefit of the syndicate members has also to be there. The contact details of the syndicate participating members should be there so that we will be able to directly establish communication with that party, and because decisions will have to be taken, because amounts are large, because the risk is too much, the senior officials of the bank will be handling this. The experienced hands will be handling this. So this is regarding the associated products with regards to letter of credit. Thanks for watching this video, and please coming back, and we shall meet again in